Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about marketing like a giant on a small business budget. It's a timely and important and hopefully really valuable webinar that we're going to do. What I'd like to have happen is for you to identify 3 items, to be able to write them down and to implement them into your business, and then for you to have value and impact from those items. So before we get started, briefly about me. I've been in this industry for about 30 years now, 15 of those as a basement waterproofing owner in the Chicago market, and then 15 years providing marketing services to basement waterproofing contractors. I am also a digital marketing coach. I coach 28 to 30 digital marketing agencies. This agency, Rainmaker for Contractors, has won an award from Google. There's a book that I published. There's a podcast that people tell me offer incredible resources as contractors just like you come on and offer trade secrets and talk about how their business has been successful. And I've been involved with the Basement Health Association as a board member for over 15 years or so. All right. I know we all like to multitask. And if you're a busy owner, you probably have a lot of things going on, but if you can tune down those distractions and try to get the most out of this, I think that's going to be beneficial to you. Some of the items we're going to cover today. I want to address the elephant in the room and the changes that are happening in our industry. And I want to look at what's real versus what's hype. And then really would like to end up with a good game plan for you so that you can really have the greatest amount of impact in your market. So the problem that we're up against, unless you're owned by a private equity company, is the industry is changing and there's big money that's invaded in the space. And there's several private equity companies that are buying the bigger waterproofing companies, and they're changing things quickly. They're spending a lot of money on advertising and so on. And so how we play the game has shifted, and it's shifted quickly. And so it's really important that you kind of figure out the best game plan to compete and to continue to grow. Some of these well-funded companies, they offer more services. So they might buy a waterproofing company that did 1 or 2 things. Now suddenly they're offering, 5 things. They do provide a lot of training, and there's a reason for that. They say one of the common ones, employee perks, is like, oh, every employee is an owner, so every employee cares about this company as if they're the only owner of the company. They have slick branding, credit to them. They're bringing in the best technology. I'm going to talk about that. And they have huge budgets, right? We've all talked about that. They're like, man, how do I compete? Most waterproofers don't have $50,000 a month plus to drop on advertising, and 30 to 40% of it going towards branding. So you see all that, and it's like, dang, how am I supposed to compete with that? And it gets very personal when this is your income. This is all your eggs are in this basket, and you're competing against private equity companies. It's like, how on earth am I supposed to compete against that? Let's slow down, get perspective, and kind of figure out the best game plan. First, let's strip away some things that we're looking at. But one of the things that we know, if you've been an owner of any company, if you've been alive, we know that change is inevitable. Change as an owner is more impactful. You really need to pay attention to protect your baby, your company that you invest in so much day after day, right? But change is constant, and the only constant in life is change. And we've really got to keep perspective and always realize change is going to happen. Sometimes we think we got a good game plan, and then we're like, cool, I'm going to work this plan and everything's going to work out fine. And then we're like, dang, more change, adapt, right? And that's just what happens. So let's first just accept that change is inevitable, and there'll be more change coming, and we'll need to adapt, right? So yes, it's difficult, but it's most difficult in the beginning. We have to overcome that fear, and we have to get our safety belts on and press forward and press ahead as hard as we can. After an injury or two, I'm getting back into working out. And just starting like yesterday, I'm doing this elliptical machine. And I got to tell you, I wanted to stop after 10 minutes and after 12 minutes and after 15. And I'm like, okay, I think I can make it to 20. I wanted to stop 8 or 10 times. And, before I knew it, I hit my 30 minutes. So it's only the third time where no, it's a little bit more, where I'm working out, every other day, but I'm creating that momentum. And each time I do it, it's going to get easier. And it's how our brains work. So I'm creating a momentum. And as you start making these changes, you can create momentum. And then as you get energy from that, it's going to rub off in your company. And then others are going to get on your bandwagon. And then you can create a lot of momentum and lead your company. So it is difficult in the beginning, but start working towards that. And before you know it, it's going to be easier. So if we peel back some of the layers of some of the things that we hear the private equities are bringing in, diverse products and services for sure, and they're coming in with their product line. If a company offered one or two things, it doesn't really matter. You have a whole full product line. Now there's a couple ways to compete with that. You could offer more services. There are plenty of suppliers in our industry and supporting industries that are more than willing to train you and your team on how to install their products. They will support you with any brochures or digital support that you need. They often will, if let's say you're getting into peering, they'll often help you install the first job, even after training. They're available for support. Of course they are, because they want you to be a lifelong partner with them. Of course they're going to offer that. So you could take that path of adding more services. In fact, I was talking to a waterproofer 2 weeks ago, and he said, hey, it's been slower. In the past, we've always adapted and we've always done something different. And so they added peering. They sent their crew to a peering company, got training, and now they've added more services, which opens the door to more markets, to more people that you can help. Now, another way to deal with this is maybe you don't want to get into gutters and peering and all sorts of things that are a little bit outside of your sweet spot. You could very much stay in that space of basement waterproofing and say, hey, this is our specialty. We're not trying to be jack of all trades, master of everything, because we know that's not possible. If you work with us, you're going to get our teams of people that have years and years of experience just specializing in basement waterproofing. And we want to be the best that we possibly can in the basement waterproofing field. The advantage to that customer is they're going to get very experienced professional teams at their house doing work and performing. So there's a couple ways you can compete with the diversity of products and services. Better training programs. Now, part of the reason why private equity companies have better training programs is one, well, they believe that their system is the best, and it's usually dictated nationwide. This is how we sell, regardless of what market they're in. But two is bigger companies tend to go through people quite quickly. In the 15 years that I owned my franchise, I had something like 13 or 1,400 employees. And imagine the turnover. Now, granted, the majority of those were telemarketers and canvassing kind of people. But boy, I went through my fair share of production workers. I went through my fair share of salespeople, show department people, just high volume, high turnover. So yeah, when you pull in someone new off the street, you're not hiring someone with a degree in basement waterproofing from a college. We're in the trades, right? So they have to learn the trade. So to have a training program when you're working with someone new, absolutely, you need to have a good training program. Now, what you have, hopefully, is you have very low turnover. You care about your employees, and you've invested a lot, and they've invested a lot into your company, and hopefully you're dealing with very experienced people where you don't need to have an amazing training program. I would also say, though, that you always need to up your game with training and developing people and just investing people. Your greatest asset is not your website or your trucks. It's your people. So the more you can invest in your people, there's plenty of training programs out there to invest in your people and build them up. Um, never mind all the books and the audibles and the endless resources that are available. It's more about you and your team embracing to learn and to grow and to get better. Benefits for employees, gosh, the favorite line that I hear when I watch the videos after a private equity company is purchased a waterproofing company is like, everyone's an employee, as if every person here now is going to treat this company like they're the only owner and they're going to care so much about it. It sounds really good. I know in reality that when a private equity company takes over, not everyone is thrilled with the changes. And there's been quite a few new waterproofing companies that have been started by former employees that got their company got bought out and they don't like how things are running. So, and everything's not always as smooth. But could there be more benefits? For sure. I would think group health insurance, there's some benefits there, but you can also take advantage of like group health insurance and all sorts of things. It's a matter of playing with your head up, asking around, and you could get part of these large groups to get volume discounts. Better customer experience. I would question that one. We're getting some work done at our house now, and I'm dealing with this huge, like I didn't know, I'm not going to say the name, but I didn't know such a large home improvement company existed. They're like all throughout the United States, huge multi-billion-dollar company. Gosh, I haven't even been dealing with them that long, and I'm experiencing miscommunication. I know, bigger companies they're private equity companies for a reason. They're trying to maximize profits, and so there's often a squeeze. And the person that I dealt with, really good communicator. And guess what happened? Like she delegated to, some junior employee that not everything was communicated. That person's dropping the ball. Now we're dealing with this person. I contact the original person. She's out of town. Just bad communication, like too much bureaucracy. When, your advantage is a smaller company, you know what's going on. There's not 30 things going on. There's a few things going on, and you know exactly what's happening, and you could stay a lot closer to everything and more personable. Better technology. I have mixed feelings about this. Like, yes, I mean, I've been in the technology field for quite a long time, right? Doing internet marketing. And I do appreciate the technology that the bigger companies have brought in. What I want to say to you is technology and the price of it is so available to you, and you need to get on that bandwagon. You need to embrace it. So it's available, it's there, and it's affordable. Larger advertising budgets, hey, you're not going to outspend these private equity companies if you're a smaller guy. Like, no question, you do need to work smarter. Like, we've all seen how they're just throwing money around like crazy, even when there's like not really market share there. They're blowing through money, and I just hang on, things will change, but you got to work smarter. So I want to give you 10 areas to look at and to improve on. And again, as I mentioned, really try to find 3 areas to improve on. What I did in my company is I had my top 10 list, and it was on my wall. And and as an owner, you're always looking to improve different things. And I was always able to see what areas am I trying to improve. And when I completed one, I would cross it off. It might be like, hey, a truck needs to be wrapped, or there's this new tool that the sales reps need to be using, or I don't know what it is. Improve the onboarding process, or improve your sales training. There's just always 1,000 things going on in a company that you can improve. But have those 10 things on the wall, and always be trying to improve the company. So what I'm encouraging you to do is try to identify 3 of these 10 that you can improve. All right, so let's jump in. Now, first one is mindset. Mindset is everything. In sales, I used to teach that, hey, in sales, mindset is 50%. And a good sales rep would sometimes say it's way more than 50%. It's like 80% or something. But as you are competing against the private equity companies, mindset is absolutely critical. And keep in mind, change. Try to always view change as it's an opportunity to get better. Just keep that in mind. Embrace it and look and have it, view it as like, hey, this is great because I'm going to have a great company because I'm going to feel this tension and I'm going to channel that into making my company better. Secondly, be adaptive. You've got to keep your ear to the ground, listen to what the customers are saying, look for opportunities. I've been involved, as mentioned, with the Basement Health Association for over 15 years, and I've sat through endless conferences, and every conference gets sponsors to speak about their services and their products, and there are just so many other services available that can complement what you're doing in the home. So keep an ear to the ground, stay adaptive, listen to your customers. And I love this line, keep this in mind, large ships turn slow. Gosh, I've seen this in life so many different times. These big companies, they're like, oh, we're the best, we're going this way. And you know what? We said change is inevitable, change happens, and that ship tries to turn, and it's really slow to turn. And you're smaller, you could change quickly. So be adaptive and see that as an opportunity to get better, and that's one of your advantages. All right, number 3, emphasize your local presence. This is really important. It's really important that you talk about how long you've been in the area. If you're a local owner, many of you have grown up in the area. Talk about where you've helped in the community, where you're involved. You want to be involved in your community. You want to put that on your website. I remember I was onboarding a client a couple years ago, and one of our onboarding questions is, are you involved in any local community events or charities or whatever? And, he's like, well, yeah, there are some. And he starts rattling them off, and okay, wow, that's impressive. I'm writing them down. Any others? Yeah. There was like 8 things that the guy was involved with. Yeah, really great things like food, pantries and clothing and shelter for women, and sending his team on trips to help build housing. And it was just real, and it wasn't anywhere on the internet. No one would know. And of course, this is the kind of person that doesn't want to like flaunt his community involvement. And I mean, he was just raised that way. His the parents were that kind of model that. And so it was normal and natural for him to, just do this as a lifestyle. But those are the kind of things that you can mention. And I did encourage this gentleman to have those on his website because I think people need to know who this person is, and people want to work with this kind of a person. So talk about your local presence. Yeah, that's a good one. I want to share a story here. When I was a franchisee owner, and I can tell you there was a time when we had to buy a certain pump because it came from our headquarters from a different state, and we didn't like the pump, but we had to buy it from them. Well, it turned out that that pump that we purchased was never tested in our market, and the water interacted with the pump in a way that wasn't good, and it made the pump not last as long. And so you can imagine the number of service calls that happened when we had a heavy rain, when this water helped corrode these pumps and that pump wasn't working right and switches were suddenly not working. And one of your advantages as a local presence is all your products have been used for many years in your local area, and you know that they work, and there's not someone from another city that's dictating to you what product that you're going to sell. You have the freedom to buy the best products for your customer because there's suppliers all over the country. So emphasize that. All right, lighthouse strategy. Love this. Think about what a lighthouse does. A lighthouse provides a way for ships that sail at nighttime. So think about your customer as a ship. They're saying like, where do I go? Who do I turn to? And they see that lighthouse in the dark with a fog, and they're like, there it is. So what does that look like for you? Try to hold up those stories that explain to a future customer why someone wants to work with you. Talk about any kind of local celebrity that you've worked with. Maybe it's a local football coach or someone that's known, or maybe it's just if you look at your reviews, the reason why people tend to pick you is because people like fill in the blank. Maybe it's personalized service. I was talking to someone on Tuesday in the Minneapolis market, and they have almost 150 five-star reviews, and there's not one negative review. And so when someone's not sure who to turn to, which waterproofing company should I pick, or at least which one should I have out to my house? Boy, there's a pretty high assurance that you're going to have a great job and you're going to be well taken care of when you're working with a company that has almost 150 five-star reviews. So try to explain with this lighthouse strategy, incorporate it into your sales presentation, incorporate it into your website and your online presence. The lighthouse strategy, hold up to people why customers are drawn to you. And that's different than trying to react and trying to sell against the private equity companies. Just create a path and draw people towards you. All right, so know your target audience. Sometimes when I do sales coaching, I hear people trying to sell on things that, a couple things, like one, don't have like a lot of impact, which is things like, cracks. And the thing about cracks is like they're almost always in a foundation. They're going to slowly grow, but there's not a lot of urgency. Or sometimes I can tell that sales reps are projecting what they think the customer should care about. You've heard this line, 2 ears, 1 mouth, used proportionately. Try to listen more. Ask more questions, listen, create that safe space, draw the customer out and figure out what their needs and wants are, and then sell accordingly. Reflect back to them their language, use the words that they're using. One of the things, like this is, I guess, a little bit more sales oriented, but one of the things I've learned about sales reps is that the newer ones have an advantage because they sound normal. When reps sell too long, they do one of two things. They said the same thing over and over again. They sometimes talk as if it's a song. There's like this rhythm that they have to it, and it feels very canned. And then the second thing that happens is they pick up phrases, I think maybe to impress the homeowner. They pick up fancy phrases, and the homeowner doesn't always understand what they're talking about. And sometimes I think the rep thinks that they're like showing their knowledge and expertise, but they're often just missing the homeowner. So it's really important that you speak the language of the homeowner that they understand. But as far as messaging, pay attention to your community and where people hang out online, and get your ads into those spaces. One of the cool things about Facebook ads, and it is a little bit of a branding move, but especially if you're a company that doesn't really like to close on when a sales rep goes out there, you like to let the homeowner think about it and collect their estimates, and it's a very much of like a low pressure sale, and you're gonna follow up with them and you hope they make the decision next month. Wouldn't you want them to see your ads somewhere online? And that's where Facebook retargeting can work really well. So you could feed, put a pixel on your website and feed that information over to Facebook, and then have Facebook or Google to follow them around the internet. So it's another nice way to target your audience. And then another item here is look at your competitors' negative reviews and identify themes, and then make sure that your company doesn't do those things, and really get some standard operating procedures so that your company is different, so that you really stand out. All right, let me ask you, is there anything you've heard so far that would be helpful? You could write those down, and remember, don't collect knowledge, be fast to implement. Success comes with implementation. All right, 6, these get better as we go on. Up your branding game. So on the internet, you really control your online presence, and you can influence your reviews. You can't control your reviews, but you can certainly influence them. But when you look at your website and you look at your social profiles, is there consistency? Is there, what's your logo look like? Your colors? Does it communicate like, hey, I like these people, they're inviting me into their space. I feel like I get to know them. One of the shows, for whatever reason, that I've kind of got sucked into is The Voice. And I'll sometimes watch it with my daughter. And it certainly seems like every contestant, you have to hear about some dramatic story. It's almost like my daughter and I will look at each other and go, okay, here we go. What's this dramatic story of this contestant? And we sometimes joke, sorry if this is too crass, but it's like they almost need to have had a family member die or have had cancer because that seems to be the theme. And then the camera angle, they always zoom up and then they go like this, real slow and dramatic. And even if you know what's coming and it happens on every single contestant, it pulls you in and we want to cheer on for the underdog and we feel like we know a little bit about them even when we know it's staged and you could tell by the camera pose the whole thing is staged, but it pulls us in. And you can, I'm not saying get as dramatic on your website, but I am encouraging you to allow people to get to know you and to get to know your people on your website. Like take pictures of your staff, even if you had short videos. Hi, this is my name. This is what I do here. This is what I like about my company. If we could be of help to you, please let us know. Those little things help people understand who you are. Don't be the Wizard of Oz and hide behind the curtain. Invite them in. Don't be that faceless brand. And stand up for something. People like others that stand up for something. Don't be controversial, of course, avoid politics and religion, but stand up for a cause and invite people to be pulled towards you. All right, and this kind of goes along the same line of like telling your story. I can't tell you how many about us pages that I've gone to on basement waterproofing contractor websites. And every time I click on the phrase about us, I always go, oh, good, great. I'm going to learn about this company. And 90% of the time, I see two paragraphs that tell me nothing. I don't know anything about the owner, the staff. It usually says something like, we do basement waterproofing in this city. We've been around for several years. If you'd like to get a free estimate, please call us here or click this page for the contact us page. Tell your story. Why are you in basement waterproofing? What gaps were in the market that pulled you in? What are you passionate about? Um, Tell a story that helps the reader understand who you are and what you're about and talk about your team. But you got to tell your story. Remember, what is it? Features tell, but stories sell. Tell your story. People remember stories. They don't always remember facts, but stories, they work. All right, another one, lean on your supplier. I love this one. There's a lot of great suppliers in our industry. There's one in mind that I talk to fairly regularly, Rich Tech, the Jim, the owner over there. They provide so many things to help support their suppliers. They provide certification so that now your techs and your sales reps can be certified, which adds credibility. They could private label your supplies. And I'm not just talking about, like a sump pump having your company name on it, but like the manual and everything inside would have your company name in it. The cost is minimal. Like explainer videos, customer literature, sales presentation, both digital and in paper, door hangers, yard signs. Like you could really brand yourself with the support of suppliers. So you're not in this alone. There's a lot of companies that want to help you grow and succeed. So lean into your supplier. Gosh, update your technology. We talked a little bit about technology earlier, but I mean, look at your website. Does it look like you guys are leaning into technology? Do you offer chat or texting? Do you use online calendars? Gosh, I don't know if there's a dentist in the United States that doesn't use some kind of automation where it says, hey, just reminding you, have your appointment next week. Please type Y to confirm you've received this. Those kind of marketing automation and customer experiences. And those are really important. It communicates to the customer that you guys have systems in place, you're really on your game, and you're leaning into technology, you're highly efficient. If there's anything that's going wrong, like you guys are going to be on it because you communicates that you communicate well. Again, the price of technology is really inexpensive. I remember I introduced marketing automation to the Basement Health Association. I bet it was 12 years ago, and I demonstrated something where I was offering like an ebook or something, and they had to text their first name, and then it would text back saying like, thanks, and whatever their first name is. Now, can you text us your phone number? And thanks for that. And it kind of is going back and forth like in the conference. And I mean, 12 years ago, I think people were like, what is this thing? Like, that's crazy. In today's world, that kind of marketing automation is kind of expected. It's like if you're not using it, like what are you doing? And again, the price of it, it's not expensive to use. But I would definitely encourage you to integrate things like online calendars and chat and texting. Like take advantage of that stuff. I mean, if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to pay for another cell phone in the scheduler's drawer to text people. No, you could text online through your CRM system and it documents all the conversations. That's all very real and doable and affordable in today's world. All right, the last item that I want to mention is to network. Join the Basement Health Association. That the number one reason why people like the Basement Health Association is the networking that it provides. The conferences are great, the speakers are great. When you go to a conference, though, like so many people say, man, I had this great conversation and I learned about this or that, or I exchanged numbers with somebody. Now we're helping each other. I was talking to a guy last month and he said, oh yeah, that last conference you had, I connected with this guy. And now we talk like every other week and we try to help each other grow, our business. So that's just networking. So there's industry events and home shows. And as far as networking, one of our clients requires, I think it's 25% of the leads come from the sales rep where they have to produce their own. As you can imagine, that does a lot. Like it makes them appreciate how hard it is to generate a lead for one. But two, it forces them to get involved in the community. And so they have to connect and network and collaborate with people like realtors and plumbers and mold remediators to try to, exchange leads with each other. It's a great way to network and create a referral system with non-competing contractors. So these are all great strategies to implement and items to add to your top 10 list of items to implement. So out of those things, I hope that you came up with at least 3 things that you could implement in your business to help formulate that game plan that's going to support you in marketing like you're big, even though you have a small business budget. So remember, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. So be adaptive and work fast. Don't be a knowledge collector, be an implementer. Version 1 is better than version none, right? So implement fast. And we are here to help. If you want to market like a giant, please schedule a call with us. We can help in so many ways, have a lot of experience that I'm happy to share tips with you and just really review your online presence and show you your opportunities. Again, implement fast, take action today, write something down and take action. All right. Make it a great day.